audience that we do every morning just as a way to get ourselves centered and to keep first things recognizably first. That's what 10 minutes of morning calm is all about. And today what we're looking at is a little observation made in a piece of Christian New Church theology, and it's talking about the history of humanity and how humanity kind of ebbs and flows. And when we look at this, it's easy again to think of these things as having specific, historical time periods. This era ended, this era began, and some of that's true. But think of it within our lives too. And a lot of the things, when it talks about things that older forms of church used to do that were really good, I think we can look at that and go like, that was really good. Maybe we need a little more of that, because it is part of our history. It's part of our spiritual DNA that's kind of built into our lives that we can actually reclaim. So the line I'm reading for you today is from the book Secrets of Heaven, written by Emanuel Swedenborg, and it's number 2124. I have been told that the people of the earliest church had a spontaneous kind of goodness that died out among those who lived just before the flood. And here it's talking the figurative flood, flood of evil that changed humanity. A more intellectual kind of goodness among people in the Christian church today is starting to disappear as well. And it's and that's the ebbing. That's the challenge, right? Is that these kinds of good kind of leave us. And there's two kinds that he's talking about here that are interesting and worthy of our thought. One is this spontaneous kind of good, and the other is an intellectual kind of good. And the spontaneous kind of good is just where spontaneously we just know. We have a foundational yes to life. And think of those people who you can just count on. They just have that foundational yes. You can ask them for help. You can ask them to run out for a beer. You can ask them to blah, blah, blah. And most of the time, they're going to have a foundational yes. That's a spontaneous kind of goodness. Intellectual goodness is more where we turn it over in our head and we're trying to figure it out and what's the best thing to do and da-da-da-da. Again, not bad at all. That's clearly an important thing to have as well. I want to really focus for a minute on just talking about maybe ways we can go into today thinking about reclaiming the former. I think intellectual goodness is something I think we can get pretty readily. But I imagine for most of us, it's more the spontaneous kinds of goodness that are really hard to remember to do. Again, that foundational yes. So just imagine that as being this ancient form of wisdom, which is kind of cool, which gets back to this famous line in the Bible, let your yes be yes, let your no be no. And it's this idea that a certain part of us, certain angelic qualities that we have, they're very tuned in, and they will tell us immediately, like, this is what you need to do here. Just do it. And it's spontaneous. We don't put a lot of thought into it. We just go. And this can be on very small scales, very big scales. A small scale one, I think about my lovely wife, and yesterday she sent flowers to a couple of girls who she's known forever, who are daughters of one of her favorite teachers. Beautiful thing to do. And it's just kind of like what she does. It's kind of a spontaneous good. Not a lot of thought to it, but just kind of what she does. That's a small form of spontaneous good. And then we have the bigger forms of spontaneous good as well. And I think probably one of the most famous ones, we've talked about this in New Church Live a number of times, was the 9/11 boat lift. 9/11, way back in the day. It seems like, hard to imagine actually. It's so long ago. But when that happened, when those planes hit the towers and they needed to evacuate Manhattan Island, this spontaneous boat rescue took place. Most people don't know about it, but you can Google it, search it on YouTube. Tom Hanks does a wonderful little documentary about it. And these boats just sort of spontaneously just got organized. I think I'm not going to have the number exactly right here, so my apologies if I'm way off, but I think it was around 300,000 people got brought off the island by these boats. So friends, when we think about that, like, isn't that really interesting, right? That here's these small scale spontaneous goods, and here it's spontaneous kindness, spontaneous good, and then there's these larger ones as well. And maybe today we can think of, how do I reclaim a little bit of that? And just try to, this is tough to do. I can't do it, but I can ask people to do it. Is instead of like seeing a need, like you're going to be presented with needs today. You just are. That's the way the world goes. You're going to be presented with a need. And instead of letting it work from your heart, like touch your heart and then work the whole way up and get lost up here in your filing system in your head, instead, just let it hit your heart and then think a spontaneous yes. Just what does yes look like in this situation? Now, not to do anything foolish. Again, we want to be careful with these things. Discernment is a beautiful thing, very important human quality. Good judgment is important as well. But just try to have that little bit of spontaneous yes. It may be a grandchild comes up to you today and asks you to read a book, and you're in the middle of doing something that your brain is just fully engaged in with work. Maybe just take 5 minutes and read the book. I don't know what it might be for you, but whatever it is, try to think of that spontaneous goodness and see that as a reclaiming of your humanity, a reclaiming of human heritage. And I love the idea, again, from a Christian church perspective, that those things are so closely attached. I mean, it's brilliant, right? Like they're so closely attached to wisdom. Really wise people have this spontaneity to them, and it's funny because they just sort of know. They sort of know what to do in any given situation, and they're very good at it. They don't make a big deal about it, but when you think about it, it's pretty cool to watch how they do it, because they don't go up here and they don't let it rattle around down here in 4 weeks till something comes out. They just do it. I mean, I was at my desk yesterday. I have some thank you notes that are getting onward of a month, and I'll get to them. But again, they're caught up here in my filing system, and it was not that spontaneous. Like, oh, let me get right to this. It was such a kind thing. I want to send the person a note. That is more of a struggle for me personally. But let it not be a struggle for you today. So, friends, may you have a day to go back and read it again. May you have a day on exercising the spontaneous kind of goodness. May you enjoy that. Find that in your life to be something that is beautiful and that adds great grace and beauty to other people's lives as well. So, friends, that's what I got this morning. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a breath, and we're going to go into meditation and a prayer. And then what we'll do is we'll say hi to folks on Facebook. So with that, dear friends, let's get a little breath. And the prayer bow. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip over and give a little cheery hello to anyone who has posted anything on Facebook. Again, the vast majority of our audience tunes in later in the days and weeks and months ahead. So so totally fine to do that as well and leave a comment. So a couple comments here. Sherry, good morning. Morning all. Totally agree with that, my friend. And Linda, great to hear from you. Good morning to you, Linda. Hope you're doing well. All right. So let's flip on over to here. There we go. All right. Yes, spontaneous good seems to be very, very tied up with kindness. And it is. It's funny how they just go together like this. I I love the one of my more favorite. That makes sense, but I hate to say I just have one favorite. I have a number of favorite passages from Christian New Church theology, and one of them is, what else is a life of worship but a life of kindness? And I think, it makes total sense. Like, if you really want to know what worshiping God is like, it's really this life of kindness. And Sherry's point's really well taken. You add a little fun spontaneity in there, and that's a good thing. And Marcus, good morning to you, buddy, and thank you for keeping us all on the rails technologically. So friends, God bless. May you have a day filled